that frequency of gratitude sent up those neural pathways to the brain, opens up our higher cognitive functions in a heart-brain coherent state. We get the full capacities of heart intuition, heart intelligence. All right. Welcome back to the Healing Works podcast. Thanks for listening in. Today, we wanted to share our stories, like why we do what we do, what brought us here, and our passion behind it, and really just allow you to get to know us a little bit. So.
Yeah. Like it or not. Here we go. Huh? Ready or not. Here we go. So
do you want to jump in?
You want me to go first? Ladies first?
Honey, Altee, do you want to go first and explain what brought you to the emotion code and body code? What's your story? Who are you?
Who are you? How did you get here?
Who are you?
Well, do you want to tell our history first of, how long we've been married and our kids and all that? Or,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. So they can kind of get to know us a little bit.
Yeah. So we've been married 8 years now. As of September 5th. Mm-hmm. Don't forget. Mm-hmm. But we've been married 8 years now. We knew each other growing up from Mr. Young's art class in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. We had that class together and we became friends after that. And we've been friends.
We became friends after Kevin shared candy with me in 8th grade. I did.
What was it? Gobstoppers.
Starburst.
And Starburst. Yeah. Those are good. Yeah. But we met each other there. We sat next to each other in Mr. Young's art class at Indian Hills Indian Hills Middle School. Mm-hmm. Might have to cut that one out. I'm kidding. But it feels like elementary.
Feels like a long
time. I mean, it is a long time. But so we've been married 8 years, met each other in Mr. Young's art class. We've been friends ever since. We have 3 kids. Do you want to name them?
Are they public? We have a 19-year-old son, a 16-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old.
Yep. And so but yeah, we love working together. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of excitement. It's been a lot of time spent together. I mean, we talk to each other all day long, which is wonderful.
Well, and I think
at least for me.
I'm like, oh, no. No, it's great and it's fun and it's interesting because when we've been friends for a long time. We've known each other since we were teenagers, but so I was married previously, which plays into the storyline here. But when we were dating, we would, hang out at the gym. If you can't tell, maybe not by me, but by the way Kevin looks.
Come on now.
The gym was our jam.
Yeah.
It's where we did our socializing and we, we hung out together and then, we talked to a lot of our friends there. That was kind of our place that we socialized. And we talked to a lot of people who were in really tough situations, mm-hmm. really abusive relationships, marriages, had trauma. And we could just relate because of what we had gone through personally and kind of where we were at in our lives. And so, people all the time would tell us, you guys should be therapists together. And I was like, ooh.
That would require school.
There's only one problem with that. I am not going back to school. So, as time went on and we just shared our story really and not intentionally, it just kind of came up all the time where people would struggle and we'd say, this is kind of my experience. And we just continually got feedback that was so helpful, that their, life changed. And we just realized that being emotionally resilient is something that can be learned, but it isn't the default mode for people.
Right.
So, really, for me getting certified with the emotion code and body code, it was actually Kevin's mom that had come across Dr. Nelson's work in 2007 when he launched his book, The Emotion Code. And his story is he was a holistic chiropractor who realized that so many people's sickness, illness, and disease and physical imbalances, the root cause of it was unprocessed emotion from the past. So while he was working as a chiropractor trying to align people's physical bodies, he started getting more into the underlying causes of diseases. And the last part of his career working on people in his office was dealing with their emotional baggage and clearing that, because the body knows how to heal itself. So if you can remove the imbalances, the body can heal. And that made sense to me. And so with Kevin's mom learning this stuff clear back in 2007, I think she went to a couple of his emotion code and body code seminars. Yeah. And then when we started hanging out and dating, I'd been through a really toxic divorce, a really difficult, abusive marriage, really. And as Kevin's mom was explaining this stuff to me, it made a lot of sense. And I thought I'd always had this underlying, maybe it wasn't totally conscious, sometimes maybe it was, where I was like, this is definitely going to have an effect on my kids emotionally. Yeah. There's no way they aren't going to take into their futures. And I didn't know how emotions worked or like the science behind it, but I was like, there's no way they aren't going to take abandonment issues, insecurity, betrayal, all the things into their future relationships or, into their life and have this impact them in some way. And that came up again for me. And I had thought about that earlier on when my kids were little. My daughter was born and diagnosed, my 16-year-old was born and diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. And at the time, my son was 2. I'm telling the audience, not you. You know this. Yeah.
Oh, really?
You're kidding.
No way.
Sorry.
No way.
So sad. But with all the time that I was spending with my daughter at the hospital and with appointments, I had kind of, in my mind, I was like, I wonder how this is going to impact my son emotionally later. Is there going to be, and so it was always there for me that emotional experiences are going to have an effect later somehow, some way, somehow. I just knew that was a thing. I didn't know why or what it would look like or whatever, but I don't know if this is making sense. But when I was introduced to this work, I was like, oh my gosh, that's always been something that I've wondered or thought about or thought, well, this is where people freak out. This is where people have midlife crises. This is where, all these issues come to the surface that have been stuffed. And these are the times that it happens when they're going through trauma, when they're going through their families breaking up or sickness or whatever. And so it just seemed to be an answer for me, like, oh my gosh, this is something that could help my kids process these intense emotions that they don't know how to make sense of at 6 and 9 years old. Mind you, when I left, I went through my divorce and we were dating, I had left 3 times prior to the final time leaving. So when my kids were little, I left that marriage 4 times in 6 years. So when I look at the impact that had on my kids, I thought, oh my gosh, I have ruined them. Not just even the leaving and going back, but then the environment they were in that time. Right. And then my emotional state. It's like, okay, if I'm hanging by a thread, how am I able to be here for them? And if I'm supposed to teach them how to do life and I'm hanging by a thread, we're all in trouble here. And I was, I didn't do anything to I don't know. It wasn't super out of control, chaos and, like that. But there was just, I'm sure, just so much underlying fear, worry, just so much abandonment and just so unsure in their lives. And so when Kevin's mom explained this to me and started introducing me to the work, I thought, I think I could do this. And I think I could not, I initially went into it thinking I can help my kids deal with their emotions. So I'm sure we'll get more into the into details of the story and narcissism and abuse and all of that when we probably have more time. But the Dr. Nelson came to town, to Salt Lake City, and Kevin's mom offered. She said, he's coming to town. Would you like me to buy you a ticket? I'd love to send you. And I was like, I would love that. I'd love to go. And I called my aunt, who is a little more into this area of stuff, into more natural, holistic options for healing. And I asked her if she wanted to go, and she came with me for a 2-day event. It was great. But as Dr. Nelson was presenting this work and how physiologically our bodies respond to this trauma, and how so much of sickness, illness, and disease is a result of unprocessed emotional energies from past experiences, and how to identify it and liberate it from the body to give the body a place to heal, it just resonated. And so I kind of went from thinking I can help my kids to, I think everybody needs this. So that was my introduction to it. And I left there, and I paid for the certification and got certified. And I think I was probably under 30 days, maybe.
Yeah.
I think you got 6 months to finish the certification once you signed up. But I was all about it. It resonated. It made sense. I didn't have to go back to school, which was a huge bonus for me. I barely made it through the first time. So
right.
I did it, but just barely. My dad told me, you deserve an extra award for finishing 3 years in one, because I made up all my high school credits my senior year, because anytime I was invited to go to lunch or whatever, I went. Why wouldn't I? So then at the end of the quarter, I was always like,
always say yes.
My gosh,
yeah.
I think I failed that class again.
Right.
And so I did. I had to make up all those credits. But talk to me about emotions and helping people, and I'm in. I'm all in. So that's how that was my introduction to the emotion code. And I just knew that it could be beneficial for anyone who was willing.
Right. And shout out to Dr. Bradley Nelson. We met him a couple months ago. Wonderful, wonderful individual.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a great story.
I love hearing it.
But yeah, and so along those same lines, I probably should have just interjected and made this one large story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they kind of intertwine.
You tell my story. You tell your story. I tell my story. But so along the same lines of Altee finding out about the emotion code, my mom bought the book. So that was 2007 that the book came out, right? Mm-hmm. So that was 2008 so my previous life, my previous experience. So I've always been intrigued by anatomy and physiology. And I had an opportunity to start, it was a spinal decompression clinic back in the early 2000s, and 2005, I think that was 2005, 2006. And so teamed up with a couple chiropractors. Speaking of chiropractic, it's all like come from the same place. Is I experienced some low back pain and such when in my mid 20s. Come to find out, I know exactly what it was from now. A lot of fear of financial situation and things like that. But I had partnered up with them, opened up these clinics, and they were really to help people alleviate low back pain and neck pain through specific devices that we had, very expensive devices, decompression machines. But I was very young. I, again, didn't want to go to school. I just wanted to be like a business owner and investor and things like that. And so, I had saved up some money with work. And so I thought this would be a great venture. And it was until the doctor that was running the clinic decided that he should be the boss, not me or the owner, not really the boss, but the owner, not me, and started stealing money. And, a lot of money, ended up having to, foreclose on a bunch of the clinic, my house.
Well, yeah, because your house,
my house was collateral because I was young.
Yeah.
And so, I had to declare bankruptcy and the whole 9 yards. And that was a difficult time in life because it all happened very fast. But a couple months prior, we were talking about expanding, opening up a second clinic because there was a lot of revenue flowing through there. We were helping a lot of people. People loved it. They were, referring people, and we had a good network going, good business going. And it went downhill very quickly. So it went from these high expectations of, okay, I'm 25, 26 years old. We're looking to open another clinic. Okay, I'm on my way to becoming, making hundreds of $1,000s to, possibly, millionaire status. And that's what I was going for. Had a lot of high ambitions and high expectations. And they came crashing down very, very quickly to where I had, built a house on it. I was 25, a large house, had business going, and then all of a sudden had nothing. And that was really that bottom of the barrel, a lot of, some dark moments, some hopeless moments of like, oh, is this what life is? Like life just punched me in the face and this sucks.
Well, and knowing you then, it wasn't just hopeless. It was, is life even worth living?
Yeah.
So
yeah, right.
What's the point?
Full transparency, like suicidal thoughts of like, this really sucks because I still had to iron out everything. I had to go into the bank. I had to drain my bank accounts down to like 1 penny. And I remember walking out of the bank with my mom, and it was such like the world just was closing in on me. And it was just like, holy crap. Maybe we should swear on this. Maybe we shouldn't. But it sucked. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It sucked. And I always had a better outlook, I think, on life, and was always excited. And came from a family that, both of my grandfathers, made some money, and, I was very interested in business and very interested in making money to do the fun things in life and go the fun places and have the nice cars and have the nice homes and have, all of the things which a lot of people strive for, but at the same time, like be happy. And when that came crashing down, and I didn't understand, it wasn't like I knew things could get better, but it was such a moment that for me, I didn't have any money. I didn't have a spouse. I didn't have the things that I was really searching for that I felt like I was on my way to. And it was really this emptiness of just like, what the hell am I here for? Like someone just stole from me. And it was really that. It was really that someone took my power from me. Yeah. That it had nothing to do with my business operation. It had nothing to do with my intelligence or my habits or the things that I was doing.
Like a lack of willingness to work for stuff. It was just,
yeah, I was busting my butt. I was working a lot. I was running the business. I was doing my other stuff on the side. I was working, and to have it taken from me, my personality, I'm a fair personality. So it wasn't fair.
Yeah. And I think that it especially hurt because you felt you were trying to be over generous to the very people who stole from you.
I paid that doctor and I paid the employees very, very well, especially not only at the time, but just in all aspects. Like they got paid very, very well. And I thought I was, I thought we were pretty good friends. I made it,
There was trust there. That was
there was a
totally
lot
violated.
of trust. There was, I let them run the front office in the clinic as they saw fit, knowing that, I had some ideas and things like that. I thought it was a very cohesive relationship. Guess not. It was so nice that they just took money, but
they're like,
that was a very difficult thing for me to understand, because my personality, I have a big heart, and I like to give. I like to see other people succeed. I like to enjoy success with other people as well. And I thought we were all going, my vision is that we opened up multiple clinics, and that doctor oversaw all of them, and that
you all would win together.
We all would win, and we'd all make tons of money and help people and go on great vacations and things like that. But that's probably the hardest part of it was taken from me.
Well,
not by my own, not by my own volition.
Right. And I think that one thing that is hard for you to process too is you would never do that to somebody.
I would never do that to somebody.
So how do you reconcile?
I don't believe in taking from people.
So then it just didn't make any sense. And it just, you weren't able to reconcile how that was even possible for that to happen. And you had no way to relate.
Yeah. And thank you. But that was such a life-altering event that literally shook me. Like the word now is shook, right? Mm-hmm. So that really shook me, to the core. Mm-hmm. Like I was shook. Like I didn't know what to do, because that instilled in me a belief that if I do succeed, people will take from me.
Yep.
And taking is different than sharing. Mm-hmm. And I'm good with sharing. I'm not good with taking.
Or being taken from.
Or being taken from, especially. And I don't think that should exist in people. I don't.
Well, and we have worked on that.
Extensively.
Because what happens in those moments is it becomes such a subconscious belief that because the emotional quotient was so high connected to that experience of success equals vulnerability, really, right? Like if I make money, someone's going to take it from me. And it becomes a subconscious belief that you operate from without even being consciously aware. So there's automatically this resistance that you're not even consciously aware of. That's like anytime I go to try something else, like everything in my body is telling me you're not safe to do this. So there's all these blocks, and that's what we work on. That's the very thing we work on.
I got hung out to dry, and it was not comfortable.
Right. And so your operating system is going to warn you of that the next time it's a potential threat in your environment. So this is what blocks people from moving forward from healing, either in relationships or in new business ventures, is trauma from the past. It's like people who have been maybe there's betrayal in a relationship. It's like, well, if I get in another relationship, I'm going to get betrayed, so I'm not even going there.
Yep.
And so, but then you miss out on so many beautiful experiences of future possibilities because you're living from the emotions and beliefs from the past. And this is the biggest block of people being able to move forward, which is what we do.
Right.
But, so when we talk about our experiences, or when we talk about the work that we do, it's because we've experienced it, all the emotions and, all the traumas and the heartache and the betrayal and the rejection and all of that really keeps people stuck. And that's why we've lived it. We know it. And that's why I think that we're able to help people to the degree that we are, because of that experience that we've had. If we had never had that loss to that degree, or, that rejection or betrayal to that degree, we wouldn't be able to relate to people.
Right. And we were talking to a client this morning, and we were talking about being your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And that comes from the heart. But what really is instilled in me is that, or not instilled in me, but really what happened when all of that went down, as I just banged the table, if you heard that. So cool.
You're going to have to edit that out.
But
Kevin likes to, he gets animated and starts
like
thumping
bang
on the table.
But what happened is when I lost that, I really lost my authentic self, because the caring, generous, sharing, kind person that I was, that wasn't okay to be like that, because it got taken from me. And so I walled up. I closed my heart off. I was angry.
Kevin had what we like to call a chip on your shoulder.
But the hard part was I wasn't using it. Like, there's a lot of, a lot of, like, Tom Brady has a chip on his shoulder, but he uses it to his advantage. I was just pissed off. Mm-hmm. I sought out things to cope. I just, like, I was angry. And if I go back to conversations, a lot of people that knew me very well were just like, this isn't you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, this is.
It is now.
Like, it brought out the Darth Vader.
You were pulling a George Costanza, and you were yelling at everyone to keep him at a distance so no one could get close enough to take something from you.
Right. But that was a protective mechanism.
Totally.
And so when I really talk about this, because I don't talk about it very often, because I don't like to go back to it. I really don't. But it's not that I don't like to go back to it anymore. I'm fine with it now, but I didn't largely years ago.
There was still a lot of shame.
Yeah. There's
associated
a lot of
with
shame
it, like a failure.
With having to, basically, walk away with my tail between my legs when I didn't cause it. Mm-hmm. It was like failure by association. And I'm like, wait a second, like, that's not me, but I'm the one having to foreclose on my house and drain my bank accounts and pay off things as much as I can to keep my name, because I was really concerned about that, because that was always instilled in me by both of my grandparents, is that your name is what's valuable, right? If you bring
live with honor
shame
and
to your
integrity.
name, mm-hmm. like, that's going to be recognized by everybody. And so that was that was my concern. And so I tried to pay off things, and now everyone's like, dude, why did you try and pay that off? You really could have kept the money. I'm like, you know what? Now I probably would
hit it and run.
but
you wouldn't have been able to live with that either.
No, I wouldn't have. So,
Kevin has guilt.
I did the right thing at the right time in my estimation and my perception. But it wasn't something easy to deal with. And so, years fast forward, I got a job with some friends, and I still just wasn't, I was gun shy to do a lot, because I just got the rug ripped out from under me. And so it really wasn't, I tried a lot of things, but it really wasn't until we really started exploring the emotion code and started removing those emotions that I finally felt better and was able to, progress in work and make more money and get back to my true self. And I think it's, it's always a work in progress for everybody, but it took a minute. It took years to.
And by a minute, he means years.
Yeah. And by a minute, I mean years, but years to get back to who, what makes me tick. And so then later, as we're doing the emotion code, then I started looking into, not really looking into, but just started watching a lot of videos. I was intrigued with the emotion code. I wasn't as, skilled in like muscle testing and things like that, like Altee is.
Yeah, because we talked about it. We're like, should we both get certified? And we should both just work on people together.
And it was really hard when you went to get certified. Not really hard, but
you wanted to.
I was a new father, mm-hmm. Father to your kids, but then Brooklyn. We had Brooklyn, and she was now. Only like
1.
Yeah, or less than 1. And you had gone to that conference for 2 days of 8 hours, and my mom helped me, but Brooklyn wanted her mom, but it was great time spent with her. But I was like, we couldn't both go because, Brooklyn was so young. I didn't want to, and my mom would have been, I'm sure, fine with it. But I was like, you go to this one and I'll go to another one. And then, it's just busy. She was doing so well with it. We opened up Healing Works, and it was a lot of just individual sessions. And so we started talking about, like, there's got to be a way to do this with more people, with groups of people and such. And so I started
working together.
I'm like, I really feel that our power and our passion is working together as we helped people at the gym, and people would come to us for advice. And we felt, very flattered and very honored and very grateful that people trust us, or trusted us and still trust us, to reach out for our opinions. And I'm like, there's something more. And so as we're looking through, there's a video call, as I look down to, like, there's a screen down there, and something down there is going to give me information, but I'm probably looking for my phone. But there's a video called E-Motion. E-Motion. And we stumbled on it, and Dr. Bradley Nelson's in it. A lot of different holistic doctors are in it, but Dr. Joe Dispenza's in it. And he started talking about, in there, I don't think he talks about the coherent state, but so I looked him up, started listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. Shout out if you ever heard this. But he started talking about heart coherence. And when I was young, just to give a little backstory, like, I always had a big heart. I always led with my heart. People say you wear your heart on your sleeve. That was kind of like my mantra, is like, I wore my heart on my sleeve, but I got hurt a lot because I operated from pure emotion, and we'll get into that, which is good. But, my grandpa, I've said grandfather and grandpa, I got to pick one, but my Pa, a big guy, huge heart, kind of gruff, but huge heart. Mm-hmm. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's why Brooklyn's name is Brooklyn. But I'm very, very similar, I would say. And so he had a huge heart. I always operated from heart.
Kind of grumbly, but...
Yeah, kind of grumbly, but very, very...
but sensitive.
Sensitive. And I closed that off after I, lost everything. And so anyway, fast forward.
You had come across heart math stuff before, and then when you saw Joe Dispenza talking, you started putting those pieces together.
I was out mowing the lawn. Mm-hmm. A lot of my inspiration and intuition comes when I'm mowing the lawn. I enjoy mowing the lawn, but when I'm out in the grass, just outside, I listen to podcasts and YouTube videos, and I was listening to one. But yeah, I'd stumbled on heart math, but didn't really
You didn't click yet.
Look at it. I saw it, but didn't really click. And so I was out in the yard mowing the lawn, and Dr. Joe Dispenza said, it's heart coherence. And we have the Heart Math Institute come to these seminars, and they study heart rate variability and in association with brainwave patterns. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. And so I can't remember if I stopped mowing the lawn and came inside. I think I did.
You did.
I stopped mowing the lawn and I came inside. I'm like, I got to look this up. And you're like, what are you doing? And I pulled up heart math, and I was like, that's it right there. The heart brain coherent state, or most of the time we just refer to as heart coherence. Dr. Dispenza always refers to as brain and heart coherence, but the heart coherent state. And I started reading on the website and reading all the science. And I'm a science geek, like flat out. I love the way things work. Biology in middle school was very intriguing to me. Boo.
No. Okay. I shouldn't say that, because I love it too. I just didn't know I liked it in school because I didn't understand how it related to anything I cared about.
Yeah. And then biology was always very intriguing to me. When I did some brief college, I took some physics courses, and those were very, very intriguing to me. But I've always been intrigued by anatomy, physiology, biology, all of it. And so when I started reading about the heart-brain connection and what happens when our heart is induced into a state which is called heart coherence or psychophysiological coherence, like I said. But in short, heart coherence, and what happens in the heart, what happens in the nervous system, what happens in the brain. I started reading the science and I was like, oh yeah, this is my jam.
This is it.
And so then I reached out. I've done several certifications through the HeartMath Institute. I talked to them here and there. Great organization. But the whole point of heart coherence is to open up your heart to possibility. Is within our heart, what they found, and maybe we'll talk about this in the next couple episodes, but deeper. But what they found, and the biggest find, I think to date, and in the early 90s, was in 1990. The scientist Dr. Roland McCready with HeartMath, he's a psychophysiologist, found that the heart contains 40,000 neurons. Specifically hypersensitive neurites, and they are very, very hyper intelligent. They have long-term and short-term memory. But what they found also is that the heart contains its own intrinsic nervous system, independent from the brain, that can think and feel. Only organ that can feel is the heart. And so as I started reading this and started into these certifications, it just became very, very solidified in me, and it just resonated. And we know when it resonates, that the vibrational pattern of the cells in your body really, they recognize and your truth. Heart's magnetic field recognize truth. And then you get, the chills, hair raising on your arms, on the back of your neck, and that tells you that you're onto something. But
well, and it made sense too that it's like so many people, put in a lot of effort to heal, to feel better, to find peace in their lives, right? I mean, people read books, books upon books upon books. They spend years and years and years in therapy. They, they're trying to heal the trauma that is stored in the body. There's books that are written about it. The body keeps a score because, we'll get into how that information is stored in the body and how to identify what it is, to liberate that, to clear it. But as we were learning more about how all this works together, it was like, this is the missing piece that so many people don't know about in truly healing, and not just trying to reason with what happened in the past, not trying to just move past it, not trying to, heal consciously, but incorporating the memory, not just in the brain, in the mind, but in the heart. And that's where the complete healing takes place. And it makes sense that it happens in the heart. And
right. That's why all the phrases make sense that we've heard our entire lives is follow your heart, lead with your heart, put your heart into it. I've never heard follow your brain, lead with your brain, and put your brain into it. Because as important as the brain is and as important as thought is emotion is far more powerful. When directed in the right ways, we get the heart transmitting that signal to the brain through the neural pathways, and the heart informs the brain that healing has taken place. And there's very simple heart-focused breathing practices that we teach, but highly effective. In fact, one of the most effective things that you can do. And that's why we're so excited with this podcast, because like we said on the first episode is it's very, very difficult. And we have posted here and there, but it's very, very difficult to write down a lot of the information on a post and get people to read it and and really digest it, where we can do that so much better on 30 to 45 minute to an hour podcast, or however long we start rambling.
Yeah.
But
30 60 minutes.
Yeah. But that's why we're so excited, because
it's hard to portray it's hard to portray the emotion and the feeling behind it too. And like we said,
it's like texting.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like texting. I like calling.
Yeah. You lose the emotion of it. And as we're explaining this stuff, if it resonates as true for you, then it's like, okay, and it's hard to portray that in text, not just sending me a text, but in written form. It's like, okay, feel this, but as we're talking about it and it's like, making sense to people, that's where we feel like the power is to this work, is it's got to feel like truth to you, in order to be willing to incorporate it. And it's hard to portray that in a picture in a couple words.
Right.
So,
right. And so that's, and to your point, that's why we're so excited, because we believe that the combination of not only removing the emotion, but then accessing the full power of the heart and getting the heart opened up to gratitude and love and compassion and appreciation, that's a very different neural signal sent from the heart to the brain versus frustration or anger or worry or, I just said worry. I was going to say worry. It's one of the biggest ones, but worry is one of the biggest ones. Mm-hmm. But, frustration and anger and sadness and sorrow. And when those, depleting emotional signals, frequencies are sent from the heart to the brain, really causes, nervous system chaos, and shuts off the frontal cortex. It's called cortical inhibition. You can't think clearly, brain fog. You can't create. There's a lot of things that you can't do from an incoherent state. And it's, but from a coherent heart rhythm pattern of gratitude and appreciation. That's why gratitude is largely, talked about a lot. What we can show you though is the science behind it and the gratitude, frequency of the heart and a heart rhythm pattern of gratitude, because we can measure all the frequencies of every emotion. But that frequency of gratitude sent up those neural pathways to the brain, opens up our higher cognitive functions in a heart brain coherent state. We get the full capacities of heart intuition, heart intelligence. We get our electromagnetic field completely expanded, and we'll explain that as we go. But in that state, we're not just operating from a neutral state. We're operating from a high capacity, a high energetic,
and that's
a high expanded state.
Yeah. And that's why, it just works so well with the heart math tools, because I feel like so many modalities or different options for healing do bring you back to that neutral state. Right. And for a lot of people, that would be great, because most people are living in stress and survival. So, if that's all people are looking for, if that's all you're looking for, great, we can help you with that.
Right.
But we also work with people who maybe have worked through some of that trauma that they had gone through, or, once they get to that point of neutral, it's like, I know there's more. I know there's more that I want to do. There's more that I want to experience. And so we have people at different stages in life. Some people are stuck in debilitating anxiety and have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning and finding a purpose to make it through another day. People with severe PTSD, military, and different experiences like that. And then we have people who maybe have done a lot of work on their mental grit and have overcome a lot of that stuff and are, have things rocking and rolling in their business, but know that they have hit some walls and are looking to break through some of those barriers. So,
and are good, but want to become great.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And this work works no matter where you're at, really, is what we've found over the years and the, many, many, many clients that we've worked on. And young, old, human, pet, it doesn't matter. I mean, we all have emotions and we all are affected by vibrational frequencies of emotion. So, we're excited. We're excited to talk about this stuff, to share. We've got some great guests coming up already lined up.
Yep.
And we look forward to sharing this stuff more and more.
Yeah. And thanks for listening. We just wanted to relate our stories. So, we've been there. We've felt it. But again, like Altee just said, it's one thing to, kind of process those emotions and, be out of some anxiety and be out of some depression and anger and frustration. But we can also be in happiness and peace and love and gratitude And really what life's designed for is joy.
Absolutely.
Right. And really the action verb of joy is enjoy, right? Is enjoyment. Like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to enjoy life. We're supposed to enjoy interactions with loved ones, with strangers, with, everyone around us. We're supposed to enjoy the things that we do. We're supposed to enjoy the work that we do. We're supposed to enjoy the vacations and not be stuck in depression from yesterday or an anxiety from the future that robs us of joy. And
Exactly.
when you're not in the present moment, you're not enjoying. It's not possible. And so we can help with that. We can help get rid of the anxiety and the depression and the worry and the guilt and frustration and any of that literally holds us back from becoming the best version of ourselves that's enjoying life and happy and caring and generous and serving and really able to do the things that we want to do. But in order to do that, not only do we have to get rid of those emotions that are subconscious programs and play themselves over and over and over again, not only remove those, but then open up our hearts to what's possible, open up our hearts to what's potential for us, open up our hearts to really loving who we are. And then from there, we can love others more fully, love what's going on, really start expanding and seeing the greatness that is in this life. So we can attract the things that we want to do, so we can do the things that we want to do by being that love and being that gratitude and being that compassion.
Exactly. That's what we're here to do. Remind each other of that possibility. So
Yep.
all good.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this one up. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.